"This isn't your land anymore, cowboy. Go cry to the sheriff if you want." The cartel leader's voice was cold and mocking, his cigar glowing faintly in the darkness as the flames devoured what used to be Elijah Cole's family ranch. The night air was thick with smoke and betrayal. Horses screamed, wood cracked, and the legacy his father built with bare hands turned to ash before his eyes. To them, Elijah was just another black man who got lucky owning land in southern Texas, land they now wanted for their smuggling route. They didn't see the years of sweat, the generations buried in that soil, or the quiet power in the man they just stripped of everything. As the last fence post collapsed in the fire, the cartel convoy disappeared into the desert road. Laughing, Elijah stood still, his broad shoulders trembling, eyes burning with rage, not from the smoke, but from the realization that justice wasn't coming. He clenched his fists. "You made the biggest mistake of your lives," he whispered. By sunrise, he wasn't alone. 15 men stood behind him, men with no names, only call signs, former Navy SEALs he'd served with during his years overseas. They came not for money, but for loyalty. Men who owed him their lives once, now ready to return the favor. "Eli," said Torres, his second in command, a scar running down his face, "you sure you want to do this? We hit them. There's no going back." Elijah's eyes were fixed on the smoldering ruins. "They took my home. They don't get to keep theirs." The plan was simple: hit fast, hit hard, leave no trace. But revenge rarely stays clean. They rode south, 15 bikes roaring through the desert, the rising sun painting their silhouettes in gold. Dust followed like a storm as they crossed into cartel territory, where law meant bullets and silence. At the border town of Loma Athol, the locals turned away. Everyone knew whose land they were riding into, but Elijah wasn't here for fear. He was here for names. Inside a cantina thick with cigar smoke, Elijah placed a burnt photograph of his ranch on the counter. "Who ordered this?" he asked quietly. The bartender swallowed hard. "Sena Vega. He runs everything south of the ridge." Torres leaned close. "That's 3 clicks in. Heavy guards." Elijah nodded. "Then we knock on the front door." By nightfall, they reached Vega's compound, steel gates, armed guards, the scent of cocaine and death in the air. Elijah raised his rifle and whispered, "For my father." The first explosion shook the desert. The SEALs moved like shadows, precise, silent, merciless. Within minutes, chaos reigned. Elijah found Vega in his office, sipping whiskey, pretending not to care. "You came all this way for a pile of dirt." Vega sneered. "No," Elijah said, stepping closer, ice cold as the barrel pressed against Vega's chest. "I came for peace." He fired once. The gunshot echoed like a curse over the burning compound. Elijah walked out, blood on his hands, but no peace in his heart. As dawn broke, the SEALs stood around the wreckage. "It's done," Torres said. "Let's go home." But Elijah looked at the horizon, the same desert that once promised freedom. "Home's gone," he murmured, "and so's the man who built it." He turned his horse north, toward the ruins of his ranch. In the distance, the wind whispered through the ashes, but buried beneath that ash was something none of them saw. A single photograph that hadn't burned. A woman and a little boy, Elijah's wife and son. The photo would be found days later, by someone he never expected. 15 years later, the ranch had long turned to dust. But stories of the black rancher who fought a cartel still haunted the border towns. Some called him a ghost. Others said he was buried somewhere in the hills. But his son, David Cole, knew better. He'd grown up under a new name, raised by his mother far from the border. She never talked about what happened that night. All he had was the scorched photograph she kept in her Bible and a single warning: "Don't go looking for your father's ghosts." But when David turned 25, the ghosts found him first. It started with a letter. No sender, no stamp, just 3 words: "He's still alive." David felt something stir inside him. The same fire that once burned his father's world now burned in his veins. Within days, he was heading south, retracing his father's last known trail. The same towns, the same faces. Most turned away at his questions. But one old bartender in Loma Athol stared too long at the photograph David showed him. You look just like him, the man whispered. But if you're smart, you'll leave before sunset. Vega's sons still run this land. Then I guess I'll meet them, David said. That night, the desert came alive again. Headlights sweeping through the dunes, engines growling in the dark. But David wasn't alone. From the shadows stepped Torres, older now, his hair grey, but his stance still military. You must be Elijah's boy, he said quietly. Your father saved me once. I owe him. If he's alive, I'll find him. Together they followed the trail south, to an abandoned mine now used as a cartel stronghold. Inside, the walls were marked with symbols, strange carvings that looked more like graves than warnings. And in the center, chained, bruised, but breathing, was Elijah Cole. David froze. Dad. Elijah lifted his head slowly, eyes filled with years of pain and pride. Took you long enough, son. Before they could speak again, gunfire erupted outside. Vega's sons had arrived. Go, Elijah shouted. You finish what I started. David hesitated. Not without you. The old rancher smiled faintly. Then let's end it together. The fight that followed would become legend. Father and son side by side, reclaiming what was stolen. Not just land, but legacy. When the smoke cleared, Vega's empire lay in ruins. Elijah, wounded but alive, looked at his son. You've got my fire, he whispered. Now use it to build, not destroy. David nodded, tears burning his eyes. I will. Months later, under a new dawn, the Cole Ranch was rebuilt, not as a monument of revenge, but as a sanctuary for families displaced by violence. The land that once burned became a home again, and on the gate hung a simple sign, Cole Legacy Ranch, where fire became freedom. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because the next story you don't want to miss